A super common thing that I see as a couples therapist is that women in heterosexual relationships will have a hard time bringing their partner to couples therapy because he's worried that the therapist will pick on him. Now, if a man does agree to go to couples therapy, 9 times out of 10, he usually asks for a male therapist because there's this assumption that the male therapist will get him and be less inclined to pick on him. Here are my thoughts. Let's talk about the state of heterosexual relationships now. Historically, people married for much more functional reasons than they do now. In Western society, it was usually that the men would go to work and then the women would stay at home. Now in Canada, 70% of us are in dual income situations. What's more is that there was a study done by Wells Fargo in 2021 that showed that Millennial and Gen X women are actually making more than their partners in heterosexual relationships. This is significant when you also consider that women make 89 cents for every dollar that a man makes in Canada still. All that to say, a lot of women come into relationships in Canada being like, okay, I work hard for my money and I make good money. In fact, I might make more than my partner. So I don't need a breadwinner anymore. What a woman is now looking for is companionship, emotional intelligence, good sex, and love from her partner. Now we have a bit of a situation because this whole time men have been like, well, I just need to provide. And now they're being asked to have skills that they have not been societally raised to develop. There was actually a study done in the UK that showed that men develop emotional maturity at the age of 43. So I'm going to say something. If it feels like you're getting picked on in therapy, it is not because we are trying to pick on you. It is because I am trying to teach you skills that society has not ingrained in you. This is not your fault, but it is an issue, and it is something that men need to work on if they want to stay in happy, healthy, heterosexual relationships. And don't get me wrong, I am also focusing a lot of attention on women and what they need to develop. But I think that this is a really important thing for us to start talking about as a society. So don't see it as being picked on or whatever, just see it as, okay, you haven't developed certain skills that need to be developed, and that is precisely what couples therapy is for. I think a lot of us women, whether we're conscious of it or not, have a ton of rage. I'm not talking like the type of rage where you're throwing things across the room. I'm talking like this seething, quiet, internal rage. And sadly, it's quite justified in my opinion. So for example, in a study by the Pew Research Center, they found that in half of 2-parent households, both parents are working full-time. Regardless of the fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2022 found that women are doing 5.5 more hours of household labor each week. However, men are continually overestimating how much they're doing at home. In other words, even though the household labor division is not equal, men believe it's equal. This is one tiny example of why women are frustrated. But I've noticed something in doing a lot of individual therapy with women that many continue to hold a double standard for men as well. So they say, I want you to be emotionally intelligent, I want you to do more around the house. I still want you to make more than me. And I still want you to provide for me, even if you make less than me. So here's an example to demonstrate what I mean. I've worked with women who make a lot more than their partner, but if they go on vacation, they're like, well, I want him to pay for the flights. I want him to treat me. I want him to buy me all this stuff. So many women are actually still buying into this patriarchal norm that men should provide. So you want them to be more traditionally masculine, but also more traditionally feminine all at once. The other thing is that when there are men who are trying to change their behaviors and they want some positive reinforcement, because of the rage that women have, they do not want to give it. I hear a lot of women being like, oh, you want a trophy every time you do something? And I totally get this, but I also think we need to recognize that if a man is changing his behaviors, if he's doing exactly what we've asked, appreciation goes a long way. Because when we repeatedly do this is also what causes men to say, well, fuck it. If I can't do anything right, I'm not even gonna bother. So we perpetuate the very cycle we're trying to get out of. So I'm a couples therapist and I've been doing a series about the state of heterosexual relationships and why they can feel so difficult to navigate these days. And I think that something that contributes to this and high divorce rates is that people are jumping into marriage and relationships in general without fully knowing the person first. I do understand that this is really tempting because there are so many societal pressures of you should be married at a certain age or whatever. But what I notice ends up happening is that sometimes people are in relationships where, I'm not gonna lie to you, they're just straight up incompatible. So much of the relationship becomes about how do I change this person fundamentally and all the arguments around that versus, taking the time when you're single to clarify what your needs are, to be more selective with who your partner is and to date them for a long enough period of time to see if they possess the very traits that you're looking for. I have worked with people who are married and then they find out when they're married that one of them doesn't want children. That is so heartbreaking, and yet I also don't understand how this was not a conversation beforehand. Be more selective about who you're dating and be more honest with yourself about what you're willing or not willing to tolerate. I also think that on a societal level, we need to stop pressuring people to get married so quickly.